it's Friday, and so we've kind of talked about having these new segments. So on Friday, we thought we would try to have a little talk about one or some of the Canadiens' prospects. Just have a little overview of what's going on with some prospects, either a general overview or a specific one. And so we're going to start this one. What are we going to call this?
Prospect Friday. Let's call it
Prospect Friday.
That's it.
I'm going to write it down right now. Prospect Friday.
So
that's so catchy. I love it.
Well, I got Taco Tuesday, so might as well do Prospect Friday.
Prospect Friday, sure.
Yeah. So just delve a little bit into one prospect, one guy who's his play, his development, his situation, what happens with that particular prospect. Once a week, we do that. We've got our Monday segment already, the Monday mailbag, and so Prospect Friday. Yeah, it's going to. We'll try to make it a thing.
It's going to be viral. That name's going to go viral. It's so catchy.
Yeah.
Oh man, we're going to get a theme song for it. It's going to be awesome. Okay, so Thursday I went to Canadiens practice because I'm a Canadiens reporter, and Marc-Antoine did not.
No.
He skipped Canadiens practice. He was derelict of his duty as a Canadiens reporter and instead went to Laval to go to Laval Rocket practice. And who did you speak to when you went to Laval? I actually know the answer to this, but for the for the benefit of our listeners and viewers, who did you speak to at Laval Rocket?
What a mise en scène. Yeah, I spoke to Filip Mešár.
No way!
Yeah! Imagine that. Yeah, and it's great because I was all by myself. There was nobody there.
Absolutely.
There's nothing.
That's great.
Nothing like a rocket optional practice to steer all the media away. That's it. You. Sat down with for 15 minutes with Filip Mešár, another 15 with Coach Jean-François Houle. And when it comes to Filip Mešár, he's in an interesting situation because he's eligible to go back to juniors, to the Kitchener Rangers. It has not been the case yet. They've decided to remain patient with him to try to see, how the situation evolves on a daily basis by keeping him on the roster with Laval. He was scratched the first two games, played about 10 minutes on the third game. It was a season debut, played on the third line.
He's set to play again on Friday, by the way. We're recording this again. It's currently 3:30 on Friday afternoon. He is expected to play on Friday evening for his second game.
Exactly. So he played his first game with Riley Kidney and Elias Anderson on the third line. Played his regular shift the first couple of periods, and then in the third, they started double shifting guys like Simoneau, like Gignac, who were better equipped to try to help the Rocket, come back because they were trailing the Rochester Amherst. So it's a situation where you got a first round pick in 2022 who's only 19 years old, and you could choose to send him back. Owen Beck is in juniors, and nobody's thinking, well, why is he back in juniors? Well, usually at 19, that's where you are. When it comes to European players, you have the option. You can choose. And it's not as if Filip Mešár exactly lit the world on fire last year in Kitchener and proved that he had no business going back to juniors. And there's so many forwards in Laval. They started the season with 17 guys on their roster, 17 forwards on their roster. Yeah. So it means scratching 5 guys every night. Now, again, we're recording this podcast in the afternoon. There's a chance that after the Rockets game, they call up someone in which at some point there's bound to be a call up to Montreal. So they'll be down to 3 extra guys that are scratches, because in Laval you have Emil Heinemann, who's out seemingly with a concussion, and Gabriel Bourque, who's out too, both for more than a couple of weeks. So there might be a chance where they find a better position, a better place in this puzzle for Mešár, or at least to have him play every night. But fundamentally, Kent Hughes wants him to play top 6 minutes and first power play. And it's an uphill battle for him. It's a steep hill to climb for Mešár to be able to get that in Laval. In all likelihood, he will. So unless the rash of injuries continues both in Montreal and Laval, and there are call-ups and there's revolving doors that are starting like it did last year, he might stop like on the fourth line. In which case, is it really the best thing for him to stay in Laval instead of going down?
Let me ask you this: because Mešár has traditionally, consistently been opposed to playing major junior hockey in Canada. Okay, He was last year. They had to convince him. This year, he is also opposed to it. I would imagine they would have to convince him again if they wanted him to take that route. So has his stance changed on that, or is he pretty consistent in that?
No, it has. It has changed.
Oh, okay.
It has changed significantly.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, so because I was surprised too. I thought that he was really against that. That it was like, obviously if they send him down, he's got no say in it. I mean, even the GM of the Kitchener Rangers, Mike McKenzie, has no say in it. It's like, I'm waiting for the player. I hope to have him, but it's not my call. So it wouldn't be Mešár's call either. But he could express his uneasiness or unhappiness with that. But his approach has changed, and he says, I want to play. And I don't want to play one game and then be scratched the next. I want to have a lot of ice time. And if it means going back to the OHL, well, that would be a good option. And he says, I trust what management in Montreal is thinking and what they're trying to do. So he's been sold that idea when he was sent down during training camp. And he says, I used to be in a position where when I was drafted, it was like getting to Montreal as quick as possible. But it's not my point of view anymore. He says, for me, it's about taking the time to develop and making sure that I'm the best player I can be when I'm 21 or 22 years old. And I felt when he said that to me, I really felt as though
it was like Kent Hughes was talking. Yeah, that's
exactly.
Right.
So he's been sold on that idea.
So let me put my tinfoil hat on, because I was surprised when he was scratched for the second game. The first game, not a big deal. It's a back-to-back, Abbotsford.
Yeah. When
he was scratched for the second game, I was like, okay, well, that's weird. It's okay to say, okay, calm down. It's the first game. There's a lot of games. But he's a first-round pick. They want to get him ice time. When I saw him scratched for the second game, I was like, that's curious. Like, what are they trying to what are they trying to do here? What kind of message are they trying to send? So, tinfoil hat is on. Okay. Yeah. Do you think that he was scratched in those two games just in order to make it clear to him that you have no guarantee of playing at this level? So if you want to stay at this level, this might be your reality. But if you go to junior, you're going to play, and you won't have to deal with this anymore. Do you think that had anything to do with that decision? Because admit it's curious to put a first-round pick in the stands for his first two games of the season in the AHL while Joshua was playing. Yeah. Riley Kidney gets into a game, though I think he sat the first one as well. But anyhow, it's Emil Heineman's playing. Like all the prospecty guys in Laval were playing except for him.
Yeah, but he's the youngest guy on the team too. They had 22. They had 10 guys that were 22 or younger in last game's lineup. That's a crazy young lineup, and he's the youngest guy among that group. So your theory is certainly not impossible, but that's not exactly what I would call setting someone up for success.
Well, if someone needs to be convinced, listen, I know that through his agent last year, his agent was trying to get him to Laval hard. It was difficult. It was a thing where the Canadians had to kind of massage that relationship a little bit and explain to Filip, this is how it works here. You're 18 years old. These are the steps you need to take. It's just that's all there is to it. It took some convincing, but he ultimately was convinced. And now I'm wondering if that's somewhat the case now. I mean, it's yeah. When I saw he was scratched for the second game, I was really, really, really surprised.
But don't forget that last year, he really there was he buzzed at training camp last year. He was very good in rookie camp, and you could see him. He did not pop at all this time around.
Nope.
And in between, he had an average season in the OHL. So even though he could say, I'm a first-round pick, and you know what, here's what I want, but he doesn't have the arguments to to knock at the Canadians' door and say, "This is what I want." Because now, the proof is in the pudding. What we've seen out of Mešár in the past year doesn't lead you to say, "Oh, we're going to make sure that we make room for him."
We're going to clear the decks. We're going to clear the decks for this guy. Yes.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I think that they're seeing issues with his defensive play, because they're playing a man-to-man, and over there, so far, what's been noticed is that he tends to misread who he's assigned to, who he's meant to cover, and he gets hypnotized by the puck and forgets the guy behind him, who all of a sudden gets free and gets a scoring chance. So that sort of thing.
He sounds like a junior player.
So if he's a liability in his own end,
problems with,
you have to be a really good offensive player to arrive at 18 years old and be effective in the American League, let alone in the NHL. But that lower category, and it's funny because I led my article with that, but on Wednesday, Rochester, they had Yuri Kulich there, who scored a hat trick. He scored a hat trick, and as everybody knows, Kulich was taken two slots after Mešár. So, the story wrote itself.